Good morning, everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk about how low your offer should be and why sometimes strategy is better than lowballing. So in essence, from a buyer's perspective, of course, our goal is to get you this home for the least amount possible without losing out on the home. So that's the whole name of the game. And there's a lot of strategies in that I'll go over in this video. I think when you hear that though, people often assume, well, then we should just, lowball houses, especially if they've been sitting on the market for a while. Because if you want the lowest possible, just start low, and then the seller will counter, but it might be here, even though you're willing to pay this amount, you might be able to get it sold for that amount. There's a time and place for that, but I'll explain a little bit more why strategy is better than just lowballing. So first off, I think understand that property and understand that neighborhood. So ask your agent, or you can look this up yourself, what is the average days on market in my community? That will give you a better sense of when a home might be willing to sell for less than listing price. You may see a home on Zillow, see that it's been on market for 30 days, but then find out the actual average days on market is, so for example, actually right now, Bainbridge Island is a highly sought after community. But we're late October right now, and we're a little bit in our off season, and average days on market is actually 47 days. So we know that most sellers are at this point willing to wait longer before they sell. That is great information to start making your strategy there. Second piece of information is look up in your areas what percentage lower than listing price are homes selling for. So when a home is sold for under listing price, what percentage is that? Last I checked on Bainbridge, it was between 94 and 97% of the listing price. So that's important too. So on average, people are not really settling for less than that. Also, understanding price reductions. If you see a home has had a price reduction, you may assume that that's a signal from the seller that they are really ready to sell way under value. Often though, that price reduction is them already compromising, and it's often a painful feeling for that seller. They're like, I wanted this price, I'm willing to reduce to this price. So if there has just been a price reduction, they are hoping to get the house at that number at that price reduction. So you still might want to wait a little bit longer before you go under that. Okay, now I'm going to talk about, now that we have more information, there's a lot of other information you can obviously get from a house. But that, I think, can already indicate to you where I'm going with this video about really thinking about strategy. So often, if you just lowball house and it's way too low, a seller will not take you seriously, and they won't even reply, and they won't even counter offer. People are often attached to their homes. They've lived here a long time. They've made memories there. It's really important to them. So part of your strategy too is learning more about the seller, asking your agent to talk to them, talk to their agent, and get more information. They may be in a situation where they do want to sell quickly. It may be a divorce. They may have gotten a job on the other side of the nation and they just need to move. Or it can be, they're willing to wait. You can often get these signs from the agent. They'll say things like the seller's really motivated, or they're in this situation, or the seller really, feels that their price is of value and is not going to compromise. So this already gives you a lot of signals of where to lead with your offer. So again, if you lowball, often you're not taken seriously, and you can even offend the sellers. So some people, they love their homes, they get this really low offer and they just think, screw those guys, like they don't respect me and they don't respect my home. Here's a little tip sometimes I do, only in rare circumstances, that has worked out for me well. So sometimes if I'm working with a buyer and they know, they're like, I can really only pay this much for a home and it is way under value, I will reach out to the agent. I'll either call them or I'll email them, and I'll just be transparent. And I know this sounds unstrategic at first, but I will just say, look, I have these buyers. They're really interested in this home, and I really don't want to offend anybody, but this is just where we're at. If you ever come to this price range, if you ever are willing to sell at this price, please let me know. And that's in the scenario when I've already spoken with the agent. I already know that they're not willing to accept that price. So just to be clear, I only do this strategy when I know that they're not gonna go this far under for their home. I have had multiple circumstances where that has worked out amazingly. So there was a house that was selling for $875 that we ended up getting in the high 600s because of that. So we wrote it. We didn't hear back from them for I think it was a month, and then they said, you know what? Okay, we're ready to accept at that price. So. And they weren't offended. And at that point, they were like, well, we appreciate, that you put that out there and that was an option for us. This is probably a story I shouldn't tell, but it's a true story and I'll tell it for your benefit. I had a situation where I did the same thing, and I accidentally got CC'd on an email from the listing agent, and this listing agent was prioritizing the agent making more money than what the sellers actually wanted to do. So she was immediately making my offer sound, and it wasn't an offer, it was an email, making it sound really terrible and like I was doing a disservice to my clients. And she made my offer sound more complicated than it was. Later, that the house didn't sell. Later, they ended up firing that listing agent. I ended up contacting them directly. They said, oh, we didn't like your offer because of all these reasons. And I said, those reasons aren't true. If your agent actually communicated to you what I was saying correctly, you may have been more pleased with it than you thought. And we ended up buying that house for $10,000 under what my initial email had said there. So again, there are people, this is about communication. And I'm gonna end with, and sometimes it is good to lowball. So those are strategies. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna back up a minute. There's other ways you can make your offer more attractive. Things like waiving inspection, earnest money down. I talk about that in other videos. There's times for that and times not to do that. And then every once in a while, we are in a negotiation. We are trying to get the best value for the home. So if a home has been well past average days on market, or if I'm getting feedback that this seller is really motivated to sell, we'll submit an offer, and we'll put our best foot forward with it. We'll still be polite with our offer, and that sometimes does work out. And you do have to, it is a poker game, real estate. You don't want to show your whole hand, so you don't want to say, here's our lowball offer, but imply we're willing to receive a counter, even if you are. So there is a time for that. But I just want to say that if you're serious about buying a home, that you may be wasting your time with lowball offers, and you should really talk to your agent about realistically what they think that this home is worth.